Good evening, night. It's very late. It's 10:30 my time. We're recording. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. This is part 1, 2. I don't know when we're gonna post this of episode 199. We had so much info dropped on us this week. There was literally no way that my voice was going to hold up and do all of this in one episode. Um, and us be able to have comprehensive discussions. Then I decided to go and get sick this afternoon after I already booked a guest. So, joining us today for the first time in quite a while. I actually don't think we've had him on at all this season. A1Jonnny is here to talk all of the updates coming to the subclasses. We have 8,000 words to get through of this. The other part is going to feature the Vidoc. It's going to feature the exotic armor discussion. It's going to feature the final mission of the season, the final cutscene. Things to look forward to for episode 200. We're going to do all that on Thursday's normal episode. We're recording this late Wednesday night. John, thank you so much for joining me at the last minute. I'm going to try not to take too much of your time.
But anytime, baby.
When there is build crafting to be discussed, there's nobody I'd rather talk to than my jack of all trades over here.
Yeah, there's a few things to get through in this whole
article.
My
god. I have not read the comprehensive thing yet. You and I were in a chat earlier. I hopped off to go lay down. I wasn't feeling very good then. Woke up. I have had a pounding headache for the last 24 hours. I've had a huge migraine I'm fighting through. I'm now running a fever. I threw up at the end of the Mavs game, and I have hit the rally barricade. I've hit the rally banner of Gatorade and Listerine. So we're here. We're good. We're going to try to get through this. We're just going to jump right on it. No banter, no chit chat. Some of the big things that are covered in this article are huge sweeping changes to Stasis as an entire subclass. That is like the bulk of this, as well as the future of Well of Radiance, Ward of Dawn, and then there is just a gobsmacking amount of changes for every single subclass. All right, let's get into it. I had a really bad burp there for a second. Okay.
We made it.
All right. We're going to try to cut as much of this out as we possibly can. So here we go. So with Stasis, we all know there haven't been a whole lot of changes in Stasis really since the 30th anniversary, because right after the 30th anniversary, that was when we finally got Stasis to like a good place where it wasn't super oppressive in PvP, right? That's why like a lot of us regard that as like maybe the best PvP update like post Forsaken. And immediately after that, you get Void 3.0, you get Arc, and then you get Solar, and then Arc, whatever the fuck the order was. And then on top of that, you get a whole bunch of new acronyms. We get one season to breathe and Strand. And we spent the whole last year getting stuff for Strand. We got a new Hunter Super was thrown there. They've revealed Prismatic. We're finally like going back to Stasis, and I can't help but feel like the Stasis changes probably should have hit this season, in all honesty. But I understand like you're on a time crunch, things got delayed. Like that, the delay actually may have helped them like bump this up from when they were probably planning to drop this around the 10th anniversary, and I feel like the delay let them really pull a lot of stuff forward for the Sandbox team. But we're gonna jump into it. Frost Armor is the new keyword for the subclass, and I really love this. The idea behind this is that it is an upgrade over the Stasis Shard Overshield, and it is going to be a stacking buff that reduces incoming damage with greater damage reduction as your stacks increase. So basically think of this as like Stasis armor charge in a way. That's probably like the easiest way I could describe this.
Finally have a reason to build into a shard.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this. I know our friend Phil is excited for that. He loves building into stuff like that.
The Stasis Master.
God, the stasis shard ability is so easy to build into when you're running a hunter, for example, because it grants you the energy for the shurikens. And so now you're getting an added bonus to that for the classes that have a hard time surviving. It's even better for warlocks who are dropping their rifts all the time too. So at launch, Frost Armor will be granted from a variety of sources, including Tectonic, Grim, and Glacial Harvest aspects, fragments, and exotic armor. By default, you can build to a maximum number of 5 stacks of Frost Armor that lasts 9 seconds. But with the newly reworked Whisper of Rime fragment, the maximum lifetime increases to 13 seconds and can build to a maximum of 8 seconds. Unlike Stasis Shard Overshield, Frost Armor remains active when your super is cast. so it's effectively a significant lower while your super is active. That's actually really great news for, I think, hunters in particular who do not have a roaming super here.
Yeah,
It
you're
is
not
a
gonna suddenly
it is a
lose all
one
your
and done.
buffs. Yeah.
hmm we're gonna get to that, but this working with Prismatic is so massive for the Hunter's Revenant super. I can't. I genuinely like am at a point where I'm like, oh damn, I may be building into Stasis again. That got me excited to play
Yep.
Stasis for the first time in like probably a year and a half at least.
Yeah, I
I
was
kind of
kind of curious about this with all the prismatic stuff of like, okay,
yeah.
I know what light abilities I want, but without the full kit, I was a little worried about stasis having much of a place outside of obviously the Bleak Watcher turrets for warlocks. We know those are good, but
Yeah, those are good, of course. So Frost Armor keyword, you're fortified by layers of durable stasis matter, reducing incoming damage. Resistance grows as you gain additional stacks. Reduces damage from PvE combatants by 4.5% per stack, and enemy players by 2% per stack. I feel like it's going to be, unless you're like really good, it's going to be kind of hard to get that going consistently in PvP, which it should be hard to get going. I want to be really clear. We've had enough problems with Void Overshields for this long that I think that's an okay thing for that to take a little bit.
yeah, that's the
That
one
in,
place where Behemoth Titans were good because it was so easy to just throw down the glacier grenade, break it, and then boom, you have 3 shards.
if you build
Um,
fully into this, you could conceivably get 40% damage reduction in PvE if you build fully into this.
yep, if you full asset.
And keep in mind, that's not counting Void Overshields that get deployed. That's not counting Woven Mail that gets deployed. This this is good. This gives a reason to build into this subclass more. Which I really like. The Whisper of Rhyme rework no longer grants Stasis Shard overshield when collecting a Stasis Shard, but now increases the maximum duration and stat count of Frost Armor. So basically, keep running Whisper of Rhyme. 100%. That is like, if you are running Stasis without that, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice at this point. I
Yep.
already felt like you kind of were, but now it's absolutely critical, especially like I mentioned earlier with the hunter shurikens. You're wanting to get that energy back for those, like picking up 2 or 3 shards, and boom, you're back. Now you're going to get damage reduction on top of that too. That is so crucial when that is a stunning mechanism in GMs and in raids. I love this. I love this
Oh yeah.
so much. But on the topic of stasis shards, because stasis shards are created for all allied players at once, it would be easy for the number of stasis shards on the field to spiral out of control if we were to make their creations intrinsic to the damage type. Instead, we're increasing the number of sources players can build into to generate them and increasing their value when collected with a harvest aspect equipped. When Tectonic, Grim, or Glacial Harvest is equipped, in addition to previous behavior, collecting any stasis shard now grants a small amount of health and stack of frost armor. Alongside the increased potency, we're also implementing a shared cooldown on rapid stasis shard creation. This is intended to be pretty generous and primarily limits cases of oppressive behavior like triple behemoth trial squads. That's good. I'm glad they're getting out ahead of this right now because it would
Yeah.
be abused.
And I imagine it's also just an engineering thing because, like they mentioned, like fire sprites, ionic traces. That's just a you thing that you see and you pick up. It's not something you're spreading for your fire team.
Well,
So
and I've heard that there's like an issue with Behemoth Titans right now. Like if you have more than 3 of them on screen, particularly like trying to cheese Riven, because of the rapid shard generation and shattering damage
oh
that
yeah,
is being outputted, it will actually crash the game on consoles
oh yeah.
right now.
There is a lot
So
going on.
yeah,
Even just with one behemoth titan, if you can notice a dip in frames sometimes if you're in a little tight
yeah.
corner or on Ribbon's paw.
So if you need more laid out more, it's there. But let's talk renewal grasps real quick because they can be granted through a variety of sources. Renewal grasps and Ballador's Wrath Weavers are going to directly grant frost armor rather than custom damage resistance or the shard overshield. So renewal grasps, on entering your dusk field grenade volume, you or your allies will gain a stack of frost armor. Every zero point 0.9 seconds while in the volume, an additional frost armor stack is granted, resetting your timer. That is huge
No, this is heat.
because guess what? Renewal grasps are part of what can roll on the exotic hunter cloak for Prismatic.
Oh yeah. And what's extra huge about this is you get that frost armor. You can leave the dusk field. Right now, that only helps you
Yep.
if you
Yep.
sit in that
Yep.
like a little
Yep.
mini bubble.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
Yep. You
yeah.
can pass out. You can pass through it. You can dip in and out to reset your timer. I love this. I like this change. And of course, this probably means we're going to see the return of renewal grasps in PvP, which we'll have to see how that works. But for PvE, this just went from like kind of a, okay, maybe you're running it, but you're probably wanting to run something else, to holy shit, I really want to chase a cloak and make sure I have, like, I already wanted a cloak with this on it because I thought that the Stasis shield was good.
Yeah.
This is top notch, though. Especially
Oh,
if you
yeah.
track the enemies in there. Toss the Duskfield, trap the enemies, Shuriken to shatter them, run in and get the extra frost armor. Oh my god. I love it. I love it so much. And then the Raft Weavers are going to, it's just replacing the Overshield with frost armor. When you activate your Rift or use your Winter's Wrath Super.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. So they're just unifying it. Also uses frost.
Yeah.
Because over the years of small updates, we basically had 3 different kind of damage resistance or buffs you could get from Stasis. So now it's just unified. We have a word for it. I'm hoping there's some sort of animation. I hope we look a little frosty. I hope it doesn't just look like a blue void overshield. But
yeah, I would really like that too. But we'll see what happens.
Yep,
Whisper Chill is being updated. Stasis Weapon Finals blows now have a chance to create a Stasis Shard. Headstone is going to be even more critical on those sidearms and hand cannons.
Oh, yeah.
Cannot emphasize that enough. If you have a good peace bond, or if you've been picking up the Volpecas that have been at Banshee for the last week, this is the time to use. They had a shoot to loot Headstone one earlier today. I almost picked it up, and I kind of regret not doing it.
Right. We have Ager's Scepter.
We have Ager's Scepter. We have oh my god, what's the bow? Wolftone Draw, is that the one I'm thinking of?
Either way, yeah, we have a Headstone bow now, finally.
Vergless Curve is gonna work great with this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. I can't wait. This is so exciting.
I believe we're getting a Stasis rocket sidearm. It's either Stasis or Strand, I believe.
Oh my god, I want both. I just want both. I will say, like, as much as I like the shattering, I've really fallen in love with Threadlinks, even if I'm not running Stasis. Like, just having that on something where you're clearing ads, like on Rufus's Fury, has been so helpful this year. Like, I mean, I'm running it in Pantheon and just wiping entire floors of Tegan instantly. You get you proc it with one headshot. It's just like all of a sudden everything is blowing up with the strand surge too this week. Oh, it's been so nice. Whisper of Chains is getting reworked too. Been a popular choice since its inception due to ease of use and stat bonuses, but gameplay benefit was frequently difficult to read and ran counter to core gameplay loops revolving around creating and destroying crystals. To make it successful, it required cooperation from teammates. Whisper of Chains will no longer grant passive damage resistance when near a stasis crystal or a frozen target, but now grants a chance to create a stasis shard when defeating a target while you have one or more stacks of frost armor. Love it. Absolutely love it. Everything is being built into defending and freezing. I love this.
Yeah, that'll help you keep that chain up, and that is a stealth nerf to Behemoth Titans as well, because that was what made it so obnoxious with playing Fortnite with all of the ice walls, is you had Whisper of Chains giving you damage resistance because you were next to one, and constantly feeding you shards to give you the old version of a Stasis Overshield all the time. So it was very obnoxious with multiple of them in PvP.
Well, we got two more aspects that are or fragments, excuse me, that are being reworked. Whisper of Fractures now no longer increases melee energy regeneration while being surrounded by enemies. Okay, I can see why with these changes that would be a problem if you're running shurikens or shatter dive. I can see why. But now grants a stack of frost armor when you shatter any frozen target with a melee attack. So, I mean, God, we just talked about renewal grasps. You got that. You got your cold snap grenades. Like, oh my God, this with the exotic armor that helps you with the cold snap grenades. What am I thinking? Osteomancies. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. I don't know why I always want to like think that those are like something. I always think that like associate with those with void for some reason. I don't know why.
Warlocks have a lot of grenade gauntlets.
Brother, I've been getting back into my Warlock, and I'm like, holy shit, there's no joke. There's like a dozen exotic gauntlets.
Oh, yeah.
The final rework is Whisper of Torment. This fragment is a sleeper pick that does its job well, but actual output has too many variables to keep track of. Grenade energy gains are no longer dependent on your current health value. Base grenade energy regeneration amount per incoming damage event increased from 5 to 7%. While you have frost armor, energy per damage event increases to 12%.
That's huge.
Again, we just talked about stacking these with Renewal Grasp as Osteomancies. Here you go. Here you go. Here's another one.
Yeah, and I
Another
believe
one.
Demolitionist is 10%, so getting 12% just for taking damage repeatedly is
Um,
pretty
well,
nuts.
yeah, that and oh, I don't know. I don't think it works. I'm trying to think the new trait on the brave weapons. I think it
That's 5%, so it's half a Demolitionist if you're on a light subclass.
right, but I was saying I was thinking you could run this with that and be generating grenade and melee energy at the same
Oh yeah,
time.
yeah.
So that being a mountaintop is pretty big.
Oh yeah.
I like that. And then we have a brand new fragment, Whisper of Reversal. While you
I
have
love
Frost
this.
Armor, dealing or receiving physical melee, i.e., not projectile melee damage, slows your victim or attacker.
Josh, will
So
this work with
many
glaives?
people, so many people are going to be mad about this. Oh my god, dude! If this works with glaives, let me tell you, because like we know Stylish Executioner is going to work with it. We're going to get to
Yep.
that a little bit later. But that with Triton Vices on
Oh yeah.
Hunter, holy shit! I'm
Yeah.
so excited for this.
Stasis Warlocks were already a nightmare to go against in PvP. This is just going to be horrible. Like they just now have another path to slow you down for daring to approach them in the Crucible. Oh.
And I mean, I'm kind of low key okay with this.
Yeah, no, this is really cool. Trust me, this is
This is good.
awesome.
This is going to get a subclass that I feel like wasn't being used a lot in other modes. Like, I mean, our friend Phil is one of the only like consistent stasis users that I know these days.
Yeah,
If not the only one. So I think this is going to bring a lot of folks back to the PvE and PvP side of it. Like PvP players are going to be annoyed, but hey, at this point, it's basically like just a hardcore base, anyways, playing that mode. So get good, I guess. I'm not bothered, but again, like we're usually playing sixes, so I'm not super
oh, yeah.
bothered by
No,
this.
looking over all the changes, I don't think anything here is going to be too insane in PP, and I feel like that's half the reason why it took so long to get a good Stasis overhaul, is they had to spend the year leading up to Witch Queen nerfing it in PvP, and then start working on Void 3.0. So it's been a while
Right.
since they've been in a position to start actually
They've done
making
they've done like
substantial
little
updates.
band-aids.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then Stasis Shatter is getting an update. Base PvE shatter damage, this is huge, is being doubled from 200 to 400. That is
Well, again, they
massive.
doubled it last year. So this is
This
huge.
is, I mean, this really all this is bringing it into the current sandbox. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's really all this is doing, because we have like the difficulty of stuff has increased so much. That again, I really like this change. Fixed an issue where bosses auto shattering were being hit by 2 instances of shatter damage. Boo. Fixed an issue where players in an active super would show immune damage flyouts when automatically breaking out of stasis freeze. That's weird.
Yeah.
All right, warlocks really aren't getting anything changed up here because
They ain't need it. They ain't need it.
they're pretty potent. Increased max for ice flare bolts, maximum number of seekers created before going cooldown from 5 to 7. The class that is getting a lot of changes here is Hunter. Hunter's getting a lot. With Winter Shroud included in the Prismatic kit, we knew we needed increased viability and high difficulty content when getting up close and personal gets much riskier. We also want to provide smoother gameplay loop between Winter Shroud and other Revenant abilities. Winter Shroud is now going to slowing targets will briefly increase your class ability regeneration rate. Bonus is reduced in PvP modes. I love that we can like duel this now. And now grants
Yeah.
PvE damage reduction when activated. Man, I love this.
Winter
It
Shroud is
will,
the dodge the slow aspect, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Provides a moderate boost to class ability regeneration when you slow a target from any source.
Yeah, that's
So,
really good.
well, and now with that being part of Prismatic, also remember that the Hunter Smoke will work on this.
Yeah. And Blink.
And Blink. Oh my dude, this is so disgusting. Blinding nades will probably work also.
Yeah. Oh
This is
God.
disgusting. This is disgusting.
You go invisible, blink past a guy, slow him. Nothing personal, kid. Your dodge is coming back faster because you slowed a guy. You got the frost armor. You're invisible again.
Well,
This
like
is nasty.
God forbid you miss that. You've got you might have your shurikens equipped too. Because let me tell you something. That's the melee I can run on everything. It's never being taken off on Prismatic. Like, nothing personal, kid. Touch of Winter has been widely used by Stasis players since introducing in Season of the Splicer. Yep, primarily when paired with Duskfield grenades. And Glacier Grenade for Shatter combos. The latter struggled in PvE content as the sandbox has matured. What were we just saying? So we're making targeted change to increase PvE potency without returning to the era of the Crucible, where you had to fear rounding any corner into a barrage of ice. In addition, Touch of Winter's Cold Snap grenade upgrade has been widely underused since its inception, so we're implementing a larger rework to its functionality. So Touch of Winter, the Glacier grenades are going to give you the additional Stasis crystal for the ring formation to give you 7 of those. It now forms over 0.27 seconds rather than instantly, so it's a little bit of a more riskier move, I guess, if you want to run that in PvP, obviously. And then Cold Snap grenades no longer chains an additional time when Touch of Winter is equipped, but Seekers will now duplicate when they freeze a target. Second and third Seeker chains now create medium and large stasis crystals respectively, rather than every chain creating a small crystal. Again, love that a lot. And a lot of how I'm looking at this is through the lens of PvE. And I like that they're targeting that.
Yeah, not a lot of hunters are running cold snaps because why wouldn't you use Dustfields?
Here's my favorite change. Here's my favorite change out of all of this for the Hunter kit. Silence and Squall. Increase Squall maximum travel speed by 10%. Yeah. Squall Storm now slows down when any target is within its area of effect to reduce instances where it could overshoot its target. Increase damage and slow tick rate versus PvE combatants by 40%, bringing its freeze time from approximately 0.8 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Is this like a stealth, maybe like second or third best super in the Prismatic kit now for PvE?
I think it's gonna rock and stuff like the Legend campaign. I doubt we're still gonna be doing it on like a raid boss, but for
I wouldn't do it on a raid boss, but like maybe like mini bosses or something. Like I can see this being effective on something like the Templar and Vogue.
Well, half of the dread enemies are basically little mini bosses, right?
Or like a Praetorian. Like I could see this. Man, I don't think that this takes it from being like a niche pick to like, I think if you are like on ad clear duty or something, this is legit. But also, if it's freezing and constantly shattering, that's going to give everyone that debuff, and you're getting that frost armor constantly.
And you're going to be building. You're probably going to get the half of the dark half of your prismatic bar up as before that super's over.
Instantly.
Yeah. To rock that with Sunshot or something, and you'll be throwing those super cool dual trip lines all the time.
Like brother, I could sit here and talk about how I've fallen in love with hand cannons this season. I regret to inform everybody that I'm now a hand cannon user.
Josh, I'm so proud of you, but
I will be. We did it, Reddit.
Quick correction: I am dumb. Blink is a jump ability, not a class ability.
Well, it says from any source. It says from any source, though.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying the blinding nades.
Yep.
So nothing personal, kid. So okay, time to fear stasis hunters and Crucible again. Now let's get to Titan. John's ever loving Titan heart, the crusader for the behemoth Titan before it was a silent meta for certain bosses. John has continued to convince me over the years that behemoth Titan is actually slept on.
It's actually really good. It's just obscenely obnoxious for your teammates because I am constantly making walls in front of you and making you kill yourself. So,
well, John, let's talk about your Shiver Strike first.
All right, good.
Shiver Strike, we're increasing its ability to find and lunge towards target in the now larger search area and are increasing damage versus PvE. This also affects the Glacial Quake light attack. Glacial Quake will also now auto sprint when the player starts moving forward, so no more awkwardly bashing your face into a crystal you tried to shatter after performing a heavy slam. So Shiver Strike, we're going to increase damage versus PvE by 10%, size of melee search range cone 50%, and maximum lunge tracking speed from 7 degrees to 21 degrees per second.
That's beautiful. I still don't know if I'm going to pick Shiver Strike over Consecration or Thunderclap on Prismatic, but yeah, it needed some help
Right.
because they deservedly nerfed it into the ground due to how strong it was in PvP at launch, and they haven't
Well,
really
and that's
touched
the
it since.
that's the thing. I think it's all about like giving options because they said that they wanted underused
Hmm.
specs and fragments to shine in Prismatic. So I really really like this. I'm gonna have to look at we don't know the exact list of every fragment yet.
Yep, but I
Fragment
do
or
know
aspect.
Shiver Strike is an option for us on that,
Okay, okay,
and
okay.
yep. And right now, all it's used for is to move. Like you use it like a dodge to get out of the way of stuff. It's so unreliable. You rarely actually use it to punch things. You use it as a movement tool because it's so unreliable.
Well, let's talk about Cryoclasm then for a second,
Hey,
because you like running around and hitting things. Um, We're returning to a middle ground between Cryoclasm's original release and now. We're removing the sprint requirement, but implementing a cooldown after a single extended slide. It'll be on cooldown for 4 seconds. I feel like that's pretty fair in anything, because then you can't just sit there and spam it in Crucible.
well, especially for Prismatic because you can technically have 3 charges of it because it is
That's
like
right. That's
Consecration.
right. That's right.
It's a
That's right.
slide melee, so that makes
See,
sense.
this is why we
Um,
brought John in. John plays all the classes instead of me, who typically plays Hunter and dabbles a little bit in Warlock and well, Titan Punchy Punch. I don't look at the aspects for my Titan. I go in and I thunder crash the shit out of things in mayhem. And then the Diamond Lance. I like the idea of the Diamond Lance.
these are some pretty beefy changes.
I think it's been a hard sell for a while over other abilities, but correct me if I'm wrong, Diamond Lance is part of the Prismatic kit.
Yes, it is part of the Prismatic kit, and
So
also remember these are things that I make for the whole team, so you
yes.
all will be able to pick these up and eat my
So
little ice
low key,
spears.
that's why I always hope that like a Titan is gonna run Stasis so I can run around with a fucking spear.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm really good at spear throwing in this game. Have been since the days of the Zol strike. So
Don't forget you can slam them too. You can do a little
oh
ground pound with them too.
brother, I'm so excited. Listen, I have gotten a lot of practice with my gathering storms. So
Yep.
increased thrown detonation radius from 3.5 meters to 5 meters. Again, these sound like
Almost
small changes,
double.
but that's a pretty big
Yeah,
area of effect in my
that's
opinion.
almost twice as big.
Increased slam detonation radius from 6.75 to 8 meters versus PvE combatants. It now shatters stasis crystals on direct impact. So you can use this as a mobility thing. Drop,
Yep.
get an ice wall up,
Yep.
or a frozen enemy, and then chuck one of those from across the map.
Yep.
Reduced pickup interactions from 0.2 seconds to 0.1 seconds, matching strand tangles. Excellent.
Yep.
And pickup
Just a
interaction
little ease of life there. Yeah.
and pickup radius is going to more than triple, almost quadruple from 0.7 meters to 3 meters, matching strand tangles as well. So now there's another thing that's like maybe hovering over your teammate's dead body, but I still love this. I like this change because it's good and it makes it a viable option without feeling like, oh, okay, they're pitying us. Like, no, this is like a legit thing that you can run in your Prismatic build. But even if you're not running Prismatic, there's more of an incentive than ever to run this on Behemoth Titan, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't forget we did get a Stasis exotic helmet that's whole thing is making more of these. So that might be more than just a goof pick after these changes. We'll have to see.
Hang on. Okay. Um. Oh boy. All right. Let's. I had to take a drink and like gather myself.
Before
Well,
this.
yes. We're officially a third of the way through this. Also, for everybody listening. Which I mean, I'm feeling kind of good about this. We're like 25 minutes in, and we're doing good. Well of Radiance and Ward of Dawn. These two things get their own area. That's a really cool game shot that they have there too.
Oh
I
yeah.
really like that. Because these two are so intrinsically intertwined together. John and I have said for years that if they nerf one, they're going to have to nerf them both. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment has arrived. Um, oh boy. All right. Well of Radiance's core fantasy has always been a supercharged, healing, empowering rift combo, offering a rally point for your fire team during moments of focus. In its current form, its healing and damage resistance offer effective invulnerability, which removes any other defensive option from consideration on top of providing a sizable boost to your fire team's offensive output. We've chosen to push Well of Radiance further towards that offensive capability by allowing Radiance to persist for a short duration after players leave the well. We're also pulling back on its defensive output, both damage and damage resistance and healing rate, by a significant margin. Oh boy.
Yep.
Well of Radiance now grants Radiant for 8 seconds when you enter the Well of Radiance. Okay. I like that. When you exit, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. As someone who's run a lot of Solar Hunter this season, I dig that change. I'm constantly proccing it with throwing knives, but not everybody else has that.
If you're not on Solar, then getting another free damage buff is cool. You know?
God, I really wish this change was here right now because it would help so much on Pantheon.
Like with Rolk.
Yes.
Just
However,
being able to touch in and out. Yeah.
Here's where it gets a little, I won't say controversial, but I think for lower level players, and you and I had a good discussion about this earlier, with Joe and with Phil. We were talking about basically our resident warlocks, and I think we all kind of agreed that this isn't a bad change for those of us that are in or for those people who are in lower level content. You're gonna feel this in like master raids, though. Specifically, I would say encounters like what's his face, Atheon. Basically any encounter that was built pre Vow of the Disciple is going to be a little more challenging now, and I think that's okay, because it's not like those encounters have been brought up in difficulty either. So reduced healing per second from 100 to 50 health points, matching restoration times 2. Okay, we're good so far, I think. Increased healed on cast from 40 to 300 health points. It is so critical that you cast that now when your whole team is there and you don't use it without people being there.
Yeah. Well,
it is so critical.
I think with how little it's going to heal you by default, they had to do that. So when you did jam down your super when you were about to die, you could at least save yourself. Right? Yeah. That would feel bad if you jammed it and still just immediately died because you were low health.
This next one I like. It reduced damage resistance versus non-boss combatants from 40% to 20%. Okay, that I think that's totally reasonable. You're not going to feel the difference on anything other than a GM or like a raid, a master raid.
Yeah, normal content, you're going to be using this as normal, but also who's the dork running Well of Radiance and normal strikes. But hey, no judgment, you know.
But, I mean, hey, everybody has different skill levels. We're a casual show for a reason.
Yes.
This is the one where I think that people are really going to heal. Are really going to feel it. Reduce damage resistance versus bosses from 40 to 10%.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have to pay attention when you're in those wells now. You're going to get wiped in those wells now if you're not clearing ass, because that's
you're going to get wiped in those wells. However, I do want to note, I'll save this. I'll save this for after we discuss Ward of Dawn's changes, because I actually don't think this is as detrimental as it sounds, honestly. And I'm going to explain my rationale when we get through Ward of Dawn. John, you still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit! I thought you cut out. Oh my god. Okay. And then maximum orbs of power from defeating targets while in Well of Radiance from 4 to 5. Cool. That's a nice little change. A little incentive, you would say, to kill things from inside of it.
Yes.
Ward of Dawn, on the other hand.
Oh, go ahead.
Nope. Let's go. Ward of Dawn, on the other hand, is meant to be a highly defensible safe haven for you and your team. In practice, our combat encounters don't have a lot of opportunities for this type of gameplay to shine. Yes. So we're making a change to allow Ward of Dawn to provide defensive capability while fighting around the dome, not just in it. I love this! We're also reworking Armor of Light to make your current health state while in the dome of Ward of Dawn more understandable, and we're pushing Ward of Dawn away from its current offensive capability unless you specifically build into it. I love all these changes so much. Let's get it. Armor of Light. Remove the Armor of Light overshield. Ward of Dawn now immediately applies a full void overshield to the caster and allies to enter its dome. Armor of Light now grants additional damage resistance to players inside the Ward of Dawn, 30% versus players and 60% versus enemy combatants. The effective health remains roughly the same as it was before versus PvE. The effect of health of players inside the Ward of Dawn is significantly lower in PvP and cannot be further increased by stacking Bastion barricades inside the ward to gain additional overshield layers. Thank fucking God! It's over! It's over! No, there is no nerf to Well of Radiance in PvP. Keep that in mind. No longer provide. Oh, excuse me. Here's my favorite change. Allies near the Ward of Dawn Dome now have Void Overshield trickled on over time, similar to the volume behind a Bastion barricade. Love it. I love it. And here, I'm about to get into my explanation after we get through these next two. No longer provides weapons of light by default. This behavior has been moved to the benefits of the Helm of Saint 14. Corey, from God's mouth to your ears.
So
Brother,
we finally have a reason to maybe run that helmet, kind of. We'll see.
brother, beyond the fashion, you have a reason to run this now. The Ward of Dawncaster can now generate additional orbs of power by defeating enemies with melee attacks in or near their Ward of Dawn dome. All right, I want to get through all their explanations before we have a discussion about these two together. Additionally, we've seen the supers above and burst damage supers in the same tier have increasingly dominated the Crucible landscape due to their uptime. We want to maintain some texture across the match when supers become available. The delta is a bit too high, especially in 3v3. To reduce this, we're making a change to all supers with the final shape. While different types of supers will have different passive recharge time, all supers will now use the same damage-based rechargers. That means no matter what super you have equipped, dealing a specific amount of damage to a specific enemy type will result in the same amount of super energy gained, whereas previously that value could vary by about 30%. This effectively increases the real-world uptime of roaming supers in the slowest recharge tier and reduces the uptime of our fastest recharging burst supers. I love this. Let's have a discussion about these two and why they're still linked together and why Warlocks may want to hold off on celebrating with all those memes. Yes, Well of Radiance on its own is probably not the play in high-end content anymore. But you want to know what's coming back? The Shadowkeep strat of popping a well and dipping in and out of the bubble. That is effectively coming back because now that you can passively get those, imagine, John, imagine in a perfect world where you have a bubble behind you so you can dip in and out for that extra armor, be inside of a well, you have a rift popped, and you have a Bastion barricade off to the other side. You will and I know that's a lot to set up, but for high-end players, I expect you to be able to pop things like that on a moment's notice. I expect that.
Or are we finally going to be in a banner shield meta?
So I was actually waiting to bring this up because if you're popping those overshields, you don't need two bubble casters. John, is it Captain America time? Is my question.
Look, I've been praying for Banner Shield to come back into the meta since Season of Opulence.
You are the only person I have ever met who loves the Banner Shield, and brother, I love you so much for it. We have on numerous day one attempted to run Banner Shield to no success.
Yes,
through no fault of your own, but we're taking away one of our two highest DPS people usually.
Yep. But man, you're telling me during DPS all I got to do is crouch and hold left trigger, baby. I am there. I will be blocking that damage. I'll be giving you that plus 40%.
So now with Fire Team Power and with Account Fire Team Power, guess what? Your lowest level person is now the designated bubble popper. I'm like kind of joking, but I do love that it's going to passively give that to you, and you can probably they don't say here. I'm sure somebody's going to try it on day one. Pop a Bastion barricade by you to give everybody overshields too. Like,
yeah,
cool.
When I am on Void, I already do that mid DPS when the well's going out anyway.
Well, I know you do, but I'm saying and that's what I'm saying. Like most like mid to top tier teams will understand how to get around this. I really don't think it's going to affect us that much. It will affect those who don't build craft. Like they've effectively made this game from, hey, we're going to target the casuals with everything, and they realized how much it was pissing everybody else off, to, hey, we're going to up I still think the difficulty in the general game is maybe just a tad bit too high for when you want to go in and just like shoot shit with your friends. But like overall, the game feels like it's in a pretty solid place, especially if you're playing with a group.
And there's a wide range, right?
But they've built encounters in a way ever since, like we said, the Witch Queen. Really, ever since the Savathun boss fight is what immediately comes to my mind. That the Rolk encounter, the Caretaker encounter, where it has been really hard to pop a well or a bubble effectively for a very long time. And I really, really love that. I am a big fan of this change. I think one of the most annoying places that this is actually going to affect you is going to be in something like Ghosts of the Deep, where you are focusing your DPS in that small area, both on the mini boss and on that end wizard. I think that, but then you consider like, okay, like you can still run like if you have like four warlocks, like why not just run a well so everybody can get radiant and get those buffs?
Yeah,
Why not?
I don't think well is suddenly going to become useless. I just think people are going to have to shift their gameplay of
Yes.
even if you're in a well, you're going to need to pay attention to ad spawns because that is what makes well
Yeah.
so universal. Is once you drop that well, you could be in a day one raid or you could be in a normal nightfall. Once you drop the well, don't matter how many things are spawning around you, what the boss is throwing at you, if new champions have come in, it doesn't matter. You just focus on killing the boss, right? So this, you are going to have to be aware of your surroundings and still make sure you're not getting overwhelmed with ads or you will die in your well.
Yeah. All right. I mean, man, I don't think we could have summed it up any better than we just did.
Yeah.
I think
Can,
that there.
can I say
But
one
funny
quick
enough.
thing on
Oh, go
one
ahead.
quick thing on PvP?
Yeah.
Yeah, with them, I can't wait for them to take that out of that tier where bubble and well charges faster than anything else by default. I don't want to go back to pre those changes where roaming supers just win every engagement, but right now, well and bubble and trials is just a win button. If you get those, you drop it on the capture point, and guess what? All of the answer supers like a Nova Bomb or a Thunder Crash charge way slower than that, so you're never going to have it before them. So it has been increasingly annoying, especially with capture point trials, which I do like. That yeah, once they get a well, it's they have that round, and then they give their Titan enough super for a bubble, and they have the next round, and then you're done. You know, so just a little thing. I appreciate those changes, even if they weren't really directly nerfed in PvP.
Yeah, I mean I really enjoy this. I don't think that it's, like some massive problem, right? In fact, if anything, with the way that the game plays now, I think actually popping a bubble would be really helpful because you can just sprint through it and keep going, and you have armor of light. It's
Yeah,
basically your portable healing. If you're running that, you got people on healing nades. You've got all
that's
this
how I
other
run
stuff.
it on Caretaker. I pop it in
Yeah.
between plates while we're running to give everyone one's light and overshields
So
for the
like,
second
I
plate.
mean, you've got that like something like Rolk. Like this might be the play now, because we've never wanted the well on Rolk. Like most teams are not welling on Rolk, right? But like something like I mean, like I still think that like popping a bubble behind or like off to the side, like in something like Nez, to where you can dip in and out, and I think like certain encounters like that where they largely stay in front of you and you can trick them to staying in front of you, it's probably still going to be warranted. Just because like any resist is better than no resist, especially on like slam attacks.
Yeah,
Um,
and if we're
but
gonna keep getting encounter or uh, keep getting game modes like Onslaught that are that ad dense, a buff to
yeah,
bubble would be awesome there because I've run bubble a couple times. Obviously, it's Season of the
this
Solar, but it's pretty good.
you want to know what this excites me for the most, though, is something that's, we don't know when it's going to come back. The next iteration of Pantheon is going to
Yeah.
be so challenging. Like
Oh yeah.
that's where my brain is with all the like, oh well, pop a well, pop a bubble, have that same Titan throw up a barricade, pop the rift, like everybody just do it all at once, is because I'm so used to like, okay, we gotta activate every buff right now. Like this week is the shot collar buff. So like boom, boom, heavy. Like
Yep.
it is so much to keep track of. And I love how frantic it is. It has made these encounters that we trivialized over the years so challenging. That's why I like this. But this is the kind of stuff that I want to see as like modifier more than like it is now. Like I part of as good as I am with the changes, again, I'm still thinking about a more casual audience that maybe doesn't raid that often. Maybe gets like a couple raids in each raid, if that, and that's still well above the norm for a player in Destiny, right? Um, I just can't help but think about that and wonder what the effect is on the player base, and like maybe that this should be like a modifier on master content. I would have loved to have seen this tried out as a modifier in Pantheon, if we're being totally honest. That would have been a great place to test these changes. But to
Yeah.
me, this also screams that the final raid boss in the new raid is going to be mobile if they're nerfing this now.
Oh, I swear to God, if the witness encounter is just we
If
do
you
the
can stand
mechanic
in a
and he
fucking
stands in one,
well,
yeah, and just bake them with
Well, there's
briars.
nothing more terrifying than a sword in the ground to an entire civilization. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We got to start going quick. We got to start. We got a lot here.
All right.
All right. Here's the bulk of it. We're a little over halfway through, ladies and gentlemen. At 45 minutes, I'm feeling good about this.
Not
Arc
bad.
subclasses. Hunter. There's not much here. Arcstrider has been great for a little while now, especially if you're running that Gathering Storm. Arc Staff, the heavy palm strike attacks, and heavy air slam now blind enemies. Love that. That's kind of a common sense change. Again, I don't know why you're running Arc Staff in PvE, but there's an option for you. Disorienting Blow. I like this decreased base cooldown time by 10 seconds from 100 to 90. And we talked about building into things. If you are running Arc Hunter, chances are you've probably run a Liar's Handshake build, a 1-2 punch build. Like, this is good news for you there. We talked about blinding enemies earlier. Here you go. And then the Tempest Strike. I really like the Tempest Strike. Additional damage resistance versus PvE combatants when activated. Lingering for a short duration after the attack. Big fan there. Big fan.
Don't forget, you'll be getting that new exotic that makes you drop all those explosives and gives you Tempest Strike too. So that's a
yes.
good buff.
And it's on Prismatic. I like running Tempest Strike a lot. So yep. Big fan there. All right, Warlocks. The Stormcaller's Lightning Surge is going to have more survivability when you aggressively teleport into groups of enemies. So damage resistance versus PvE combatants when activated, lingering for a short duration after the attack. And then the Ball Lightning increases the final aiming shape size by 30%. And the Chain Lightning increased the secondary chain projectiles base damage from 27 to 54, doubling it. I really like that. They're basically just bringing it into the sandbox. They're bringing it into the sandbox. That's all they're doing. And then, oh boy, there's a lot here for Titans. There's a lot. But this is largely because a lot of these abilities are part of the Prismatic kit. Thunderclap. Oh boy, additional damage resistance for PvE combatants when activated because you are in such a vulnerable position. Increased minimum damage by against PvE combatants by 20% and maximum damage increased by 33%. And then maximum damage versus enemy players increased by 14%. I cannot tell you the last time I saw Thunderclap used.
It is very good. I particularly like it with Heart of Inmost Light because that is a powered melee I can burn even behind cover just to keep my Heart of Inmost Light going, right? But yes, it will be on Prismatic, and throwing a Glacier Grenade and then rearing back to Thunderclap through the frozen Glacier Grenade sounds sick as hell. Love these changes.
Yeah, well, especially with the shatter changes too.
Mm-hmm.
The knockout aspect, it's been hard to find a solid place for it due to the harsh difference the value of unstunning, passive health regeneration in different combat environments. So knockout, increased bonus damage granted to powered melee attacks versus PvE combatants from 25 to 50%, and reworked the healing behavior. No longer unstuns health regeneration on melee defeats. Now instantly grants a chunk of healing that scales with the type of target defeated. A player will be 30 health points, minor combatant 50, major 75, champion 100.
This is beautiful because knockout, at least the healing part of it, was basically
break down knockout for me. I don't quite understand knockout.
So breaking a combatant's shields with your melee gives you a melee bonus damage and gives you health regeneration. Now in PvP, that basically means you get a kill with a melee, you're instantly regenerating health, you're moving, your next punch does more damage if you need a follow-up, if there's someone else there. It's always been really strong there. In PvE, the health regeneration stops the second you take damage. So when you're surrounded by ads, you basically never notice it. This change is going to give you those significant health bumps based on the thing that you punch to death. So this is going to help a lot in PvE without buffing it any more in PvP, which is brilliant buff. Love it.
All right. This is what we call John. And we're right here. You can't see me. I'm pointing right at my eyes. You're right here. In January 2023, we implemented a change to drastically reduce the travel speed of Touch of Thunder Storm Grenade. Yep, with specific focus on Crucible. We're not in love with how that's shaken out in PvE, so we're making a targeted change to increase its speed only when tracking PvE combatants. But increased travel speed between 1.5 and 1 meter per second. 1 meter per second is pretty fucking good. That's a pretty big upgrade.
Yeah, all in all, these are all needed because honestly, after they nerfed Arc Titan, after the craziness that was Season of the Splicer, it's been pretty. It's been rough for my favorite subclass.
I really like that change though because again I'm deferring to you for the Titan kit. The Storm Grenade is the Storm Grenade, is that the Arc Grenade for Prismatic?
I don't know. I think we get pulse grenades.
Okay,
but we might get we might get storm grenades.
Okay,
but
I don't know why storm grenades are on my mind for that. Like I was thinking about that earlier when I was reading this. I was like, oh well, isn't that like part of?
I believe the prismatic grenade. I know it's an arc strand. I just don't know if the arc side of it is going to be a mock of pulse or a mock of the storm grenade.
I think I was thinking lightning grenades for the hunter kit. I think that's what I was thinking. Lightning grenade is currently a bit too spicy. Now applies jolt after the first damage event rather than prior. Again, feel like that's kind of fair across the board. Here's a whole grenade. If you don't have anything to add, I'm just going to move straight into arc grenades.
Yeah, no, just like I said, happy to see Arc Titan get a little love because they've been a little weak after the post-splicer nerfs.
For sure. Arc grenades, though, really excited for all of these. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 20% for normal storm grenades, but it will not work on the Touch of Thunder variant. Again, feel like that's kind of fair. Yep. Skip grenade, increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. That with what is it? Is it Shinobu's vow for
that build's pretty fun now. It's gonna be better.
It's fun now. It's gonna be even better. And then Arc Bolt is what I was trying to think of. That's what I was trying to think of. I'm very excited. I like running Arc Bolt grenades, even if they're not meta. They're great for a really quick AOE attack that can take out a bunch of things, get you some jolt procced, blind them a little bit, increase damage by 15% in PvE. I love that all these are PvE changes too. They really said fuck your Crucible.
Yep.
Y'all got enough to contend with.
All these are needed because pulse grenades are almost anyone is almost the only thing that anyone runs on in PvE. So good to see it.
Yep. All right. So we've got 3 more subclasses to go. Excuse me. We've got arc fragments. Quality of life changes just real quick. Spark of Recharge, ability regeneration bonus now persists until player returns to full shields, rather than deactivating as soon as shields begin to recharge. Great, I already run Spark of Recharge. Fantastic news. Spark of Beacons now triggers on defeating targets with arc power ammo weapons while amplified.
Blinding Thunderlord?
Blinding Thunderlord, Hullabaloo, if you picked up one of those with chain reaction, which is it's getting a really big buff next season on heavies. It's getting nerfed on everything else, but heavies it's getting like a 40% buff, 30%. Very excited for that. And then Spark of Frequency now grants 15 weapon stability on powered melee hits in addition to the reload benefit. So again, I feel like they're really just updating a lot of things to the current sandbox because things have gotten so out of control with the introduction of Strand in PvE. I feel that they have to be like, okay, you can't run Strand Titan for everything. And then on top of that, Solar Titan has had a big resurgence with Pyrogales.
I've been running.
It's like, all right, motherfuckers, you're gonna run something else. All right, let's get to Solar. Let's get to the bane of my existence right now. Solar Hunters. For our gunslinger friends. Lightweight knife, baby. Lightweight knife. Yeah. John and I were so excited about this earlier. We are huge fans of the throwing knife. Oh my god. Now has 2 melee charges by default. Holy shit. Increased throw animation speed by 33% and reduced suppression time between throws so you could throw both knives back to back. Shit.
That's a really good, like, to supplement that power fantasy, right, of just throwing a ton of knives. But man, if you're good with those things in PvP, this is I think this over all of them is going to be the one thing you're going to notice in PvP.
This feels like the biggest change. Okay, I was making sure that Caliban's hand did not work with this.
Nope, they want
That's
the
the
proximity
proximity
knife.
knife.
Yeah,
Because that's what was in my mind. I was like, oh no, oh
yeah.
no.
With those lightweight knives, you see anyone in the red, that's just an instant throw it. They're dead. Radiant,
Insta
get
kill.
it back.
Insta kill.
Yep.
Yep. Additional melee charge does not stack with Ophidion's Fate due to the exotic's unique energy recharge behavior. We'll monitor this and evaluate how things are playing once things go live. If you can get to 3 lightweight knives, what the fuck?
That reads
What
to
the
me like
fuck,
a weird
dude?
engineering issue, and then they're
Yeah.
like, okay, well, we may rework Ophidion's Spade or allow it
So
to
that's what it
actually
says to me is that
after.
I think
Yeah,
Ophidion's Fate is going to be reworked.
yeah.
Because that kind of like takes away like a reason to run, like a big reason to run that in PvP.
And also on solar, you get your knife back on kills anyways, so it's running a whole exotic just on a stopgap that you miss a knife seems kind of lame anyway, personally.
So I love that they had to add this in. I actually wonder if they had to scramble to do this after Rolk last week. Some raid teams have a niche strategy of hunters fully stacking Golden Gun marksmen to instantly refund each other's supers with the orbs of power created on precision hits in combination with the super energy gained on orb pickup by Star Eater scales. We always appreciate this kind of build crafting ingenuity. Sorry, something smells like it's burning. This level of
We are
super
on
change
solar.
isn't very healthy for the game. Therefore, reducing the strength of the orbs created by Golden Gun Marksman's precision hits perk and making some targeted adjustments to the specific combination noted above. Golden Gun Marksman, when hitting non-boss enemies, reduce strength from 0.75 to 0.5 of a normal super orb of power. And this is all nerfs to the orbs of power created by the precision hits. When hitting boss enemies, reduce strength from 0.75 to about 0.4 of a normal super orb of power. When hitting boss enemies while Star Eaters is equipped, reduce strength from 0.75 to 0.35.
They had to do this.
They had to do this, but this is also such a niche case that I don't want to see anybody getting upset about this.
Yeah,
Like,
this is not going to
the
affect
fact
normal
that I
gameplay.
had to watch a video from Luckstruck9 teaching me how to do this, and I can't get 6 people to run or 5 people to run Golden Gun Hunter anyways.
I think the only time we've done it is when we were collie farming Last Wish. Even I was on Golden Gun Hunter for that. But yeah, it's silly when you get the whole team doing it. It's dumb. You're getting each person popping 4 or 5 golden guns in a DPS phase. That's absurd. So necessary change that luckily won't really affect normal gameplay.
Well, we've already gotten through the big Warlock change, so there's no other Warlock changes here. Let's talk about Titans for a minute, John. Let's talk about Consecration.
Let's talk about Consecration.
Consecration Slam Attack can now shatter stasis crystals.
Love it. Need it.
And ignitions generated by Consecration now deal 20% of additional damage to PvE combatants. Holy God. Fixed an issue where the slam attack was sometimes unable to damage floating combatants while they were grounded, and fixed an issue where Consecration sent in a PvE damage resistance was not being applied. This, if you're not already running Consecration, what are you even doing on a Solar Titan?
They had to give us something really cool to make us choose between Sunspots and Roaring Flames, the ×3 ability buff you get from, So I am out of it. But also I get their point that maybe without the whole solar kit together and making Sunspots, Consecration probably didn't feel that good, even if you do have 3 charges of it. So
right, and they make specific notes that that they like the changes they did in 7.3.5, but with this being in Prismatic, they wanted to buff it some more. I really like that.
Yeah.
You'll need a different tool to take down a pesky Grim, but a Servitor or Shank should cause less frustration. Really, really love that. Especially as we've seen in good old Onslaught with all the solar
I get
shields.
so mad when it goes underneath a floating wizard and explodes a couple guys behind it. Like, goddamn.
And you still get fart bombed.
Yep.
Another Sunbreaker ability on Prismatic Titan is the Hammer of Soul. Increased projectile sub-munition count when Soul Invictus is not equipped as followed. If the projectile detonates within the first 0.7 seconds of its lifetime, now creates 4 shrapnel sub-munitions, up from 3. If it detonates after, it now creates 6, up from 5. When Soul Invictus is equipped, only 3 shrapnel sub-munitions are created regardless of flight time. And they now deal additional damage when Soul Invictus is not equipped, with the damage increasing after the first 0.7 seconds of the projectile's lifetime.
They gave our hammers full court. is basically what this says.
God, I love this so much. I love this so much for you. I'm terrified now of when I hear the hammer sound in PvP, but I love this for you. I will be the fun police from now on in PvP. But I'm a big fan of this.
Stasis and Void together. Ugh.
So were we about to be in a throwing hammer meta against Oryx?
Let's do it. How far away from Oryx can I get?
Do you think you could throw a football over them mountains, John?
I'll get it there, baby. But just like we talked about with Consecration, without the rest of the solar kit, I'm sure it didn't feel that good as a super option on Prismatic, so makes sense. And not like they were very meta anyways, so why not give them a little love?
I really, really, really love that they had to address the Hunter concern over swarm grenades. Hunters raised an eyebrow at the inclusion of Swarm Grenade. We agreed, so we boosted Swarm Grenade's ease of use and PvE damage output. Tracking shape size from 4 meters to 6 meters. Linger duration is bumped from 7 to 8 seconds to 10 to 11, and increased damage by 20% in PvE.
Pretty solid.
As one of the last remaining people who actually likes Swarm Grenades, but I have been converted to healing nades. Yeah, this is kind of nice to see. I'm still not picking this over my Dusk Fields or Vortex Grenades, but good try, Bungie.
At least you will have a solar option grenade on.
Honestly, I would still really rather have healing nades, but I understand why I won't get that.
Same reason we won't get Banner War on Prismatic,
Yeah. Oh my god. Dude, there's so fucking much here. Why is there still more?
And remember, they cut this in half. They broke this in two. We'll have more next week. Let's see what the TWAB has.
I'm so upset about this. There's so much. All right, we're on the Void. Thankfully, we're
staring into the void.
We're kind of close to the end. I am preaching peak delusion, the fevers. I am sweating like crazy, even though I'm sitting underneath a fan and hugging my drinks. Oh boy. All right. Void Hunters. Night Stalkers are generally in a pretty strong place, seen by their high popularity in Onslaught. Yeah, you fucking think. A large portion of that is the potency of Shadow Shot. And not necessarily the neutral game. So they basically say, hey, your super's really awesome. Let's make everything else better. Snare Bomb. Increased linger duration of the smoke after detonation from 3 to 5 seconds, and now applies small damage over time to enemies in the smoke, which increases in strength the longer they remain in the smoke. I like this from a PvE application. From a PvP application, I'm gonna fucking hate this.
Because they made it even closer to being a Wizard Far Cloud, where you're going to take damage.
So they say in the explanation above, they basically combined Corrosive Smoke with Snare Bomb, which I used to run Corrosive Smoke a lot. But I like the idea of this, that this is the trap laying fantasy hunter. I like that. It makes sense in that, but oh Jesus Christ, man. Trapper's Ambush. Increased linger duration of the smoke after detonation to 6 seconds from 4.5. Now applies Snare Bomb's damage over time to enemies caught in its smoke. What the fuck? But, John, my favorite change in this entire 8,000-word soliloquy. Stylish Executioner's weaken effect now be procced by glaive melee attacks.
Let's go. And Stylish Executioner on Prismatic.
Let's fucking go. Yo, dude, Stylish Executioner is never coming off on Prismatic. I'll tell you that.
So let me get this straight. You can still run your Dustfield Gauntlets. You can throw down a Dustfield Grenade, get the Frost Armor, go invisible after stabbing a guy with a glaive inside of your Dustfield bubble. I'm getting all this right?
Yes. Also, Stylish Executioner is going to work on every subclass. So guess what? I can throw throwing knives and proc Stylish Executioner.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I can consecration 4 dudes and activate.
I'm so excited.
Activate Assassin's Cowl.
This is exactly why they're giving us non-ability modes in PvP now, and that's where I'm going to live. That and Mayhem is where I'm going to live. I'm never playing normal 6v6 ever again after this.
Yep. After you get thunderclapped by an invisible Titan, come on.
Dude, after you have hunters running around with 3 throwing knives. Just like, what the fuck is this? Titans. Here we go, John. Here we go. Shield throw. Shield throw, baby.
Lay it
Increasing
on me.
maximum bounce count from 4 to 5. Maximum lifetime from 3 to 4 seconds. Tracking shape and size increases after each bounce, increasing its ability to consistently find new targets. Slightly increased gravity and decreased thrust speed with each bounce, but increased damage versus PvE targets by 20%. I cannot wait to see you throwing shields out there.
I can't wait
Like,
because I was so excited when
John,
they
you
revealed
have
this.
so many good melee abilities right now.
Oh yeah,
It's a little disgusting because, again, I feel like we have to keep saying it. Shield throw is part of Prismatic.
Yep.
What the dude? What the fuck? You have to choose between this and Hammer Strike, essentially, or Thunderclap. Thunderclap is going to be good again. Like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
With point contact brace, which is on, which
Did
makes
you
it jolt.
think that we were going to look at this and say, "Oh, Frenzied Blade isn't going to be the go-to"?
Yeah, it'll be hard to say no to use that just to get 3 procs of consecration.
And can
Obviously,
I
I'm going to play with
note
that.
how
But
insane the Titan kit really is for Prismatic? I feel like you guys won here because your super Twilight Arsenal, which is the new super, by the way, with the giant void axes for everyone, Thunder Crash, Blade Fury, Hammer of Soul, and Glacial. In what world is Thunder Crash arguably the worst super on this list?
I'm
Like,
probably still going to T Crash, but we'll mainly because I'll be able to have half of Star Eaters.
I
A Star
cannot.
Eater Thunder Crash is going to be.
I cannot wait to do damage testing with you. I'm so excited now. Like, this has me excited to run GMs for the first time in years now.
Oh yeah.
Because this is so wild. God, dude, I had to bring that. Like, I mean, I'm looking at all of them, and like, again, I'm looking at the Hunter kit, and it's like, so Golden Gun Marksman, Stasis, Silk Strike, Deadfall Shadow Shot. My worst super is the new Arc super, which we didn't need, by the way.
But it's going to be cool as hell in PvP. But
I still really think that we were supposed to get Gathering Storm as the new super here, and they had to move it up by like 2 years. Once they realized that that Strand wasn't going to drop with Witch Queen, I think they had to move that up because
I kind of feel like it was the other
unusable.
way around. And now that they were redesigning this, we're like, shit, we just gave Hunters a really cool new Arc super.
That's
how
the
about
thing that's
teleport?
really annoyed. That's the thing that's really annoyed me about this. Like, that's going to be a cool ability. I don't think it's going to have good PvE uptime.
No,
It's
not
not
at
going to
all.
be the go-to. Like, but the other 4 are so fucking good
Yeah.
that, like, what do you? Anyways, I'm gonna get back to this article. Go ahead.
Real quick, as a Titan perspective on the shield throw, like you remember
Yeah.
me squealing, seeing that they're finally giving us a Captain America shield throw outside of our super. It's just so weak. It's just so weak. Like I use
Yeah.
it to give myself over shields or to proc Heart of Endless Light, not to actually have my shield throw do anything of value. Right? It's just there to keep a loop going. It doesn't actually do a whole lot. So really happy to see these changes. I'm also curious if that affects the shield throw from the super, which also doesn't feel that great in anything outside of a normal strike. But yeah, just from a Titan perspective, that is literally just something to throw out there
No.
to tickle.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you're giving. That's why you're here, man. You play a lot of Endgame Titan. You play a lot of Warlock also, and then I got the Hunter's perspective, man. Offensive Bulwark. Let's talk about this for a second. Can now only extend Void Overshield's timer to its normal maximum duration to prevent an issue where players could get into a bad timer state. Now regenerates a small portion of your active Void Overshield with each melee defeat. Okay.
This reads to me as like a failsafe to not get into the weird bug that they had with Ember of Benevolence, where you would lose
So
your
we're talking about
restoration.
Ember of Eprium.
Oh, that one. Yeah. But that bug where you lose your restoration momentum if you pick up a fire sprite, this just seems like a failsafe to stop Titans from having to run into that problem. So, just a good coding change, I suppose. I don't think it should affect gameplay.
Let's talk about the most underappreciated Warlock class, arguably. Well, actually, I probably should say that Arc is still that. I have always had a soft spot for Voidlocks. Funny enough, my only ever full team wipe in Destiny came with a Nova Bomb. And I have not run a Warlock in Crucible since because that was such a glorious moment. It was so glorious that I got messages from the other team going, "God damn, man, that was really cool." I've been trying to get a full team wipe with a Nova Bomb since D1, and they're like, "Do you never play?" Because I like hadn't leveled my Warlock at all
Hmm.
when I did it. And
Yep.
I was like, no, I usually play Hunter. I've been on the receiving end too many times.
Yep.
Um,
I started Destiny 1 as a Void Warlock, so I feel you, Jess.
brother, Golden Gun Hunter since day one. That's why I can't. People are like, why are you upset about Celestial Nighthawk? I was like, because I've been running it for 10 years, guys. 10 years. I'm so tired of Celestial Nighthawk and Deadfall Tethers. I'm so tired of them. That's why I was so excited when Gathering Storm came out. I
Oh,
told everybody, I was like, I'm not running anything else. And thank God Star Eaters got fixed around that time to make them
yep.
useful again. Oh, all right. Let's
Happy
get to
for
our.
y'all.
Let's get to
Yep.
the void locks, though. I'm waxing poetic, and we're almost at the end. Chaos Accelerant. Your charged magnetic grenade will now increase the maximum intensity of physics knockback by 10%, increase damage in PvE by 20%, and passively decreases the cooldown by 10% while Chaos Accelerant is equipped. So cool. This is basically this is the rework handheld Supernova.
Yeah, which I've
I
always wanted to be good in PvE, and it just hasn't been.
I think the coolest change to all of this, though. Well, there's two changes I'm really excited about. Pocket Singularity is available to equip and use right from the beginning with Prismatic. For a while, we've heard that it struggles in high-end PvE content, and we agree. Increase detonation by PvE combatants by 50%.
Good,
What
good.
the fuck? No, that's a great change, but just like if you have to bump something by that much, it means you should have addressed it a long time ago.
Oh yeah, but you compare
And
it
then,
to the snap, to the freeze melee, to the strand needle, like void and arc
oh yeah,
warlock
no,
melees are.
they had to give, especially, and I really feel like it's because it's the starting melee ability is the
Hmm.
big reason why you're getting it.
Yep.
Um, but I'm still a big fan of this. I like it. I don't know if I would, man, I don't know if I would choose it over anything else though. They're all so good. They really cooked on these prismatic abilities that they put into them, and we still don't know all of the fragments, obviously. So,
I feel like
um,
this is going to be a good pick fighting the dread, though. That pushback,
yes,
that boop
yes.
is going to be very useful because these guys are.
I think it's going to be really useful in high end big ads. We just talked about the importance of needing to fight the ads more and they've been making the ad encounters more and more dense. I
Yep.
think this could be a really good choice. Like for if anything, just like stall time to be able to get a rift down, right? But let's talk Nova Bomb. Long been one of my favorite supers. I think aesthetically, it is one of the supers that really fits the power fantasy of Destiny.
It
You're
was in like
someone
one of
who's
the first Destiny
all of the void.
commercials. The
Yeah,
warlock
I
on the
mean,
moon throwing a nova bomb.
there's a reason why you default like started with Void Lock.
Hmm.
Um, God, dude, I love this so much. Cataclysm variant increase seeker count from 4 to 6. Fix an issue where seekers could impact the environment on creation. Really love
Thank
that.
God.
Vortex linger duration increased from 7 seconds to 10 seconds. I really like that for boss DPS.
Yeah, I'm really hoping this helps.
They needed
Nova Bomb and
something.
Thunder Crash both have fallen
Void
in
Voidlock was
on
basically
gotten
unusable.
super damage, like laughably. So
Um,
Yeah, that was really weird. You got like really
oh,
distant
my,
for a
my
second.
headset DC'd real quick.
Um,
Sorry about that. But yes, glad to see the buff because it's fallen behind.
yeah. All right, we got one last section, John. We're almost done. You
Let's
ready?
do it. Let's do it.
It's time for Strand. God, if Osiris doesn't yell that in my ear 15 times during this campaign, it's literally unplayable.
Josh, it's time to
Yes.
embrace the strand.
It's time to embrace Strand, Guardian. You must embrace the Strand. The threat of warding. There's an outlier with it. They're basically bringing in the outliers with this whole pass, but threat of warding reduced woven mail duration on orb of power pickup from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. That is man. Well, so I think it's a solid change, but I like that they specifically note it overpowers the role of the berserkers into the fray aspect of being the best source of woven mail for the fire team. So it's making those strand titans even more crucial.
Yeah.
I like the change here.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yep.
But I'm also a Titan, so
Yeah, we're going to get into the Titan changes that are directly going to be affected by this. Let's hit Hunter real fast. The ensnaring slam is remaining popular throughout Strand's life and has seen a PvE bump in popularity with the increased uptime. It's too powerful against other players. I agree. Detonation volume versus enemy players is now a cylinder with 6.5 meter radius rather than a sphere with 8 meter radius. Really like that. Results in fewer instances of victims correctly attempting to counterplay by jumping but being caught. That happens to me literally all the time. And then Threaded Spike is being brought in. Reduced damage versus enemy players from 79 to 70, and catching your Threaded Spike no longer breaks invisibility.
which is gonna be huge on Prismatic.
Yep, they specifically said they're making that change because of Stylish Executioner.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't really have anything else to add with Hunter Strand. I think it's in a really good place. The overall kit is fantastic right now.
Yep, I'm glad it's not really seeing any big nerfs. It does need a little tone down in PvP, but
it does, and that's the only place where I really think it does. It's not that it's bad in PvE because it certainly isn't. I'm just not using it over. I'm not using it over other options when I'm in 3s, and then when I'm in 6s. I mean, because really the only 6-man content I'm doing at this point is raids and Pantheon. So like, why would I be running Hunter Strand in there essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah,
in PvP, it's such a high skill thing. I don't think it needs brought down, except for ensnaring slam. Say that 5 times fast. So glad to see that toned down a little bit.
All right, Warlock. Our focus is Weaver's Call. One major piece of feedback is the threadling uptime for Brood Weavers doesn't match up to the fantasy, with Rift cooldown times being relatively long to match the combat utility of the heal or damage increase. Weaver's Call could feel too spiky in its output with a lot of downtime. So Weaver's Call, we're adding a new behavior. Defeating a target with strand damage now has the chance to generate a perched threadling with a higher chance of generation from defeating more powerful targets. And this damage can be from any source, including other threadlings. That's the key piece right there for me.
Yeah. This with swarmers and a threadling weapon is going to go nuts.
That's kind of disgusting, but I understand why. I get why they're doing it. Because again, Weaver's Call, that's your stasis aspect on this class. So, oh my god, so many good options. Prismatic is such a build crafter's paradise.
I can't wait to play with it.
So before we can get to Titans, John, we got to talk about grapple tangles and melees. When we initially built the grapple tangle as part of the Widow's Silk aspect, we intended to be used primarily as a traversal tool, allowing hunters to give their fire team a fast grapple path through combat spaces. That intention was quickly subverted, and we now see grapple tangles primarily used to fuel an infinite number of high-output grapple melees on Berserker. I was playing Gambit with our friend Dealer the other night. Me and him were duoing in there, and sure enough, he was invading with Berserker Titan, and when he had 1-2 punch procced, he was running a regular shot, or he was running the dead weight shotgun from Gambit actually, along with a tractor cannon, and was wiping entire teams.
Yep.
Disgusting.
But you can
absolutely disgusting.
You can do absurd amounts of boss damage with that. With the Navigator, make your own grapple point, and then just continuously 1-2 punch, grapple melee, 1-2 punch, grapple melee. It does absurd amount of damage.
We want to keep some degree of freedom in how grapple tangles are used, but we don't believe using a single attack back-to-back like this is particularly interesting or healthy gameplay. I like that that's the reasoning they're giving rather than just it's too strong. Like, no, we actually don't think that this is a fun way to play. Like, we're going to we want you to have fun playing our game, not just, oh, well, I'm going to do this boring thing because it's the meta. Grapple tangles no longer fully refresh their duration when a player uses them. Instead, they have a flat number of seconds added to their timer, and that added time decreases with each successful grapple to the same tangle. Now increase their duration by a maximum of 5 seconds per grapple, reducing to a maximum of 1 second added after 5 consecutive grapples to the same tangle. Additionally, grapple melee will no longer be able to be used after firing your weapon. This is primarily intended to reduce the number of difficult to understand grapple melee deaths in the Crucible, where players can grapple towards you, fire a single hand cannon shot, and follow up with the grapple melee for a fast cleanup, but also reduces the number of melee damage stacking sources, which can spiral out of control quickly with 1-2 punch, and so that's removing 1-2 punch from the equation. Exactly what we were just talking about. So good change, healthy change. I do think it kind of takes away a reason to use Strand to a degree, but I mean, how many people were really doing this, right? Like, obviously enough that they had to address it, because that is not healthy for the game.
I'll say this: when I was practicing soloing the dungeon this season, I was doing almost twice the amount of damage on Strand Titan with a 1-2 punch and tractor cannon without this grapple cheese. So I feel like it's still going to be fine. But I was out DPSing my previous runs with Pyro Gales and Dragon's Breath, and you know what I mean? Like, it, without the grapple cheese, it already does an absurd amount of damage. So doing the continuous 1-2 punch grapple melee thing is like just a step above. So just taking that off, I'm okay with that, especially going into the most important day one raid race since like Forsaken. So
Yep. All right, John. Let's get to the final thing that we have to talk about here. Oh boy. Strand Titan. We're happy with how the fantasy has landed. There's a few balance outliers we want to address. Into the Fray, target offers a high difficulty of survivability and melee ability uptime. We're okay with the survivability as it's critical to the fantasy of the subclass, but in combination with accelerating passive regeneration of Frenzied Blade as charges accumulate, the melee ability regeneration it provides is slightly too high. So reduced melee energy activation scaler from 4 to 3 times in PvE, unchanged in PvP. I don't think that
it is.
Yeah,
it's barely. But that's just a little slap on the wrist. That ain't nothing.
Now here's the one that I've seen people very upset about today. Above, we mentioned melee damage stacking can quickly spiral out of control, and Banner of War is a good example of that. When paired with something like newly reworked Worm God Caress or Evergreen staple Synthoceps, Banner of War's relatively modest melee damage boost becomes a very large force multiplier for the melee damage boost granted by those exotics. This is not healthy long term. That we still want Banner of War to provide some value to the player when using these exotics as their natural pairing, but we are implementing diminishing returns when either are active. Banner of War, reduced maximum timer from 30 seconds to 24 seconds. I don't think that's bad on its face.
Nope.
Melee, glaive, and super damage bonus now diminishing returns with Synthoceps as follows. Melee bonuses decreased from 1.4 times to 1.15 times. Glaive reduced from 1.25 to 1.125, and super bonuses decreased from 1.4 to 1.2. When you use Worm God Caress, melee bonuses decrease from 1.4 to 1.1 based on stat count, and glaive melee bonuses decrease from 1.4 to 1.05 based on stat count.
You know something's bad when they have to give a glaive nerf, because hardly anyone uses glaives except for you and me, Josh.
Yeah, that I don't. So on its face, I actually don't think that this is horrible.
Nope. This is honestly much more tame than I was expecting. I was expecting Banner of War to get nuked from orbit. This is
so. I think with already nerfing, so this is another example of like staying mobile that we've talked about, right? I think this actually is fine that they're not nuking it from orbit, but that's only because they're hitting Well of Radiance and they're changing how Ward of Dawn is going to work. I actually think that this is fine. I think Banner of War is going to be fine like this.
You think about those damage nerfs. I mean, it's 0.1% of a multiplicative damage buff, right? Like, this is just how it interacts with Synthoceps and Worm Gods, you know. So this is fine. And to be honest, the reason most people run Banner of War is the constant healing. Yes, the bonus melee damage is nice and comes in handy. The thing is, you're a walking healing beacon and can survive a crazy amount of things. So these 0.1% scalar nerfs to melee damage when paired with other exotics is... People really get mad about this, Josh?
There are people who are trying to include this in the well and bubble nerfs as well. They're trying to throw this image in there. I think Fallout literally had a picture of it with the nerf. But this was really funny. He used the Grant Gustin meme, and it showed I think it showed Divinity Well of Radiance, Bubble, and Banner of War aspect on there, and it was but it was Salt Agreppo's face on Grant Gustin.
Salt did it again.
Yeah, he was like, before people take this the wrong way and get mad, Salt's a G. He's my boy. I thought that was very funny because immediately when I saw this and the well changes, I was like, oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, the well and bubble changes could potentially completely warp in-game metas. This is just, we're just gonna rein in the leash a little bit.
Yeah. Again, much better than nuking it from orbit. But they
Can't believe
said
they didn't give us Banner of War on Prismatic. Absolutely
well,
absurd.
that's actually, I think that's actually the biggest balance they could have done. If it had been on there, it
Yep.
would have been broken.
Yeah.
But I do like that they said, that we wanted to let it sit, and basically that was their way of saying we let you have 9 months of fun with this. Now we're reining it in a little bit. I'm okay. Yeah, so I'm okay with that. And then the final change, John, we've made it to the end. The final update: Frenzied Blade. Reduce the forward offset for melee lunge target point from 0.4 meters to 0.18 meters.
Dank.
Oh boy.
Fuck. Josh, I cannot tell you how many times, with as strong as Strand Titan is, I go to melee someone that's right in front of me, and I lunge 90 degrees to the right a couple feet instead. Thank God they gave us 3 of those charges, because you need all 3 of them to hit the one thing you were trying to punch. I'm hoping this can help fix that.
Yep. And then, man, that's everything. We have reached the end, ladies and gentlemen. This is the biggest post we've had in so long from Bungie. This took John and I an hour and a half from beginning to go through 8,000, whatever it was, words. We have another big article dropping tomorrow as part of
this wasn't even a TWAB. This was a Wednesday bomb.
Yeah, this is a TWAB. It is now midnight my time. I am exhausted. I am sick. I need to regain a little bit of energy for tomorrow night's show. I don't know. Again, I'm not quite sure what order you guys are going to get these in, but there's a reason why we had to call on a build crafter. As you can see, there are so many changes coming, and so many of these changes, with the exception of the Stasis stuff, is really targeted towards the Prismatic subclass, which, it was going to need to happen. Again, that's like, I love how they addressed it with the swarm grenade. Like, some of y'all were raising eyebrows. Like, yeah, there were definitely some abilities where we were like, what the fuck? Like, what are you guys thinking? And I think that most of these are pretty healthy. Like, I don't want to suck Bungie off here, but I really do feel like these are pretty reasonable changes. Like, again, I think the well change, I've already seen a lot of really heated responses to it on both sides. I do think it's healthy, but also what
has it been 5-6 years since Forsaken? That has been de facto.
Kind of. We went through a while there where well really wasn't the play anymore, and then they upped the general difficulty of the game, and I feel like well lock had to be used again. We went through this really nice period post Vow of the Disciple where you didn't really have to use well that often, and it was nice, and because everything was more mobile. And then we got 3 stationary bosses in a row.
Even then, though, once you get experienced teams to know what they're doing, I still what I see people doing on Rolk, multiple wells, so they're all over the room, and you run between them. Like that.
We've been doing that on we've been doing that in Pantheon. We've had 2 up. We park our div basically in one. I still like I still like well. I don't think that it's this horrible nerf, but again, I do think you and I are looking at it from a totally different perspective than somebody who doesn't get to raid or dungeon that often. They are probably reading this. I've seen people say I play a lot and I'm pretty high level, and I feel like I need it. And I think that's lack of confidence in your abilities, first off, but also there is a certain skill ceiling. At a certain point, end game has to be gated somehow, and I think this is kind of the effective way of hey, we're letting you be part of your fire team's power now. We're letting all your characters be brought up like that too, within 5 or 10 of where your main is. And then fire team power on top of that. We're doing literally everything we can. We are telling you, get the weapons, play with experienced people, basically. I don't want to sound like that guy, but I do think at a certain point something like this was going to happen, because the game, they said it best with the 1-2 punch grapple melee, right? There is a point where it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we were getting standing in a well, using div. Like, the div nerf didn't stop us from using div. We're still using it for that crit spot. It's just not doing, the damage over time and the cage bursting, and like they're about to make it even like it's more of a trade-off now to use div post final shape. So,
And
but
you
it's
probably won't
still,
be able to hot swap your auto loading rockets in your rotation and keep the dip
it's
bubble
still
up either.
maybe the best. It's still maybe like what, the second most useful exotic in the game's history behind Witherhoard. Like,
And one of the most pain in the ass quests to get too.
like, and that was my only reason against it, is like, man, it's so hard to get that gun too, that like that was part of my reason for not nerfing it. But I don't think that the ease of getting something should factor into that.
Yeah.
Like, the more I sit on
But
it,
it's also one person sacrificing their DPS to
right,
do it too. So it's a lot of
and
things. going into it.
especially with the changes now. So
Yep.
I'm okay with it. A lot of these changes have sat well with me. We've got an exotic preview change coming up, but I believe that is being included either as part of the TWAB or is being dropped on its own in the morning with the Vidoc. Either way, I'll cover that with Corey. John, thank you so much for spending your night with me. I know it's late for you. It's really late for me. This is not even getting edited until Thursday. But I appreciate it. We had to pull in someone who plays the other classes to help keep me on track here, and so I don't completely lose my voice.
Yep.
So,
And now you don't have to do this and also cover the Vidoc, the TWAB, and all the exotic teases we've gotten over the last week in one episode. So there you go.
oh my god, dude, I got to cover everything except for the
mission
golden
finale.
gun rifle is the only one that I didn't get to do. So, yeah, because that released on Friday morning. When I was at the mall Friday morning, and my exact reaction, because 3 separate people sent it to me while I was at the mall and I didn't see it, and they were like, "Oh my god!" And my only reaction was, "God damn it! Of course this comes out right after we post last night's episode. Of course, of course." But anyways, at any rate, John, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, and man, we're gonna have to have you back on post final shape, because there's gonna be God, dude, they're dropping so many weapons. We're gonna have to talk heavy. You and I are gonna have to geek out over the heavy trace rifle. I feel like we're the only two super excited for it right now. Golden gun rifles, I'm excited to see if it works with Celestial Nighthawk somehow. Like, oh, it's gonna be good times, brother. But everybody, thank you so much for listening. Whether this is part 1 or part 2, we will see you next week for episode 200. We are doing it live. Corey is getting everything set up. We're going to do it live on Twitch and YouTube. I have reached out to Joasis and Nerd to join us for that. John, of course, joined us for episode 100, so we're filling his chair with somebody else this time.
Absolutely.
But have a good night, and we will see y'all later.